Hello, I'm Mairead Smith. Welcome to Northwest Today. The headlines this Tuesday lunchtime. Campaigners call for guidelines on care home visits to become law. We'll have the latest from the public inquiry into the Manchester Arena attack. And taking a dip for charity, the two women wild swimming for cancer research. Campaigners are calling on the government to make it law for care homes in the northwest to allow visits from essential caregivers. Guidelines have been in place since August to allow residents to have a visit from someone they could have contact with, but Rights for Residents say not all homes are following the advice. Phil McCann has just sent this report.
Well, I want to introduce you to Jean. This is Jean. She was 88 when she passed away last August, and she was living in a care home at the time and was in a care home in the first lockdown when her daughter, Jenny here, had to visit her with your partner, Diane, through a window and using video calls like thousands of other people across the country. But, well, you thought that that was all going to be over in August of this year when the government brought out new guidance, meaning that now people can see their loved ones in care homes. But you've started up a campaign about this, and you've been speaking to lots of people for whom that's still not happening.
Yeah, what we found is that despite the government issuing new guidelines that are supposedly facilitating visits to people in care homes, because the guidance is not law, it's not mandatory, it's up to care homes whether or not they choose to follow it. And so what we have now is a postcode lottery, with some families having very good access to their loved ones in care homes and others being completely locked out.
For those care homes that are allowing visits, it's an uneven picture across the country. Some have lots of rules and some are only short visits. But for care homes, they'll be really worried about COVID, and there was lots of criticism about there being outbreaks of COVID in care homes. So can you understand why they're reticent about this?
Not really, to be honest, Phil, because the government have actually said to care homes that they've got to balance the risks from COVID, which are now minimal. You know, when you think of all the mitigating factors we have to protect people against COVID, that minimal risk now has to be balanced against the huge risks to people's mental health and well-being by not having visits.
All right, Jenny and Dan, well, thanks very much. And we'll be looking at this more and in greater depth on Northwest tonight at 6:30.
In other news, fine.
Well, for months now, care homes have been allowed to let families and friends in to see their loved ones. It's after visits were abruptly stopped, of course, last year because of the pandemic. But campaigners in Merseyside are warning that there is now something of a postcode lottery, with some homes imposing strict rules on visits and others not even allowing them at all. Tonight, one North West MP is expected to try to amend the law to stop that happening, as Phil McCann reports.
Bye.
This was Jenny visiting her mum Jean at her care home last year.
Even thinking back to it now is pretty traumatic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Traumatic for mum, very distressing, because she didn't understand why she was being locked away and why we were outside and she was in.
Jean passed away last August. And since then, Jenny and her partner Diane have been trying to make sure other people can see their loved ones in care homes.
There's approximately maybe 7 to 8% of care homes that are completely banning visits still. And we're not clear as to what the government are actually doing about that. So what we're saying to the government is the only way to guarantee that all residents can have this family support is to bring forth legislation.
Since the summer, people in care homes can be seen by up to 5 regular visitors, 2 in one day. And on top of that, they can see someone close who's nominated as an essential caregiver.
Despite the guidance, the homes are still subject to different interpretations by the local health protection teams.
But Laura's daughter is at a home for people with severe learning difficulties in Cheshire. We've changed her name because Laura's worried there might be repercussions with the home. Laura is allowed to take her daughter out of the home, but she can't go in.
So it's very hard for her, really, really difficult for her to understand why mummy doesn't come and see her anymore. It's a case of, do you still love me in a way? and it's heartbreaking.
So some people are still having to use video calls to talk to their loved ones in care homes because some care homes are really concerned about COVID. And of course they and the government came under lots of criticism last year for the number of COVID outbreaks in care homes. And that's one of the reasons why there is some reluctance about changing the law.
I personally would hope that we could get through it without the legislation involved. That would be my main aim, with cooperation between the resident relatives, the families and the care home owners. But if in the due course that doesn't prove to work, then perhaps I would consider it.
Liverpool MP Dan Carden had been hoping to try to amend the law on this tonight so that people find it easier to see more of their loved ones than Jenny got to see of her mum. Phil McCann, BBC North West Tonight, Liverpool.
Well, let's stay with the subject of social care. 5